In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn an ordinary felt doll into a posable felt doll, coming up. Hi everyone, it's Carrie here from Dream Up, where I capture an idea, shape a thing, and share it with you. On this channel, I share tutorials, reviews, tips, and the occasional fail in an attempt to tangify my imagination. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. You can use my posable doll technique with any felt doll pattern you like. For this demonstration, I'm using the patterns from Shelly Down's book, My Felt Doll. In addition to the materials found in Shelly's book, I'm using 1/16 inch aluminum armature wire. This will make the doll posable. I'm also using some tumbled rose quartz gems to add a special personal touch to my doll. Of course, this is optional. I traced the basic doll patterns from the book onto a piece of vellum. I use this pattern quite a lot, so I've already cut them out and I store them in a plastic bag with some freezer paper. Here I'm tracing out the pattern pieces for the clothes I'm going to use. This is that vellum, and I just use a black pen to kind of trace over the pieces that I need. So I'm going to use this blouse and this jumper. Once I have everything traced, I make sure to label things, what type of piece it is, and then how many pieces I need, and then I cut them out. This is a piece of freezer paper, and what I like to do with my patterns is add a little bit of Aleene's, tack it over and over again, glue to the back of them. You can see here I just spread a little bit out, and then using a paintbrush I kind of spread it evenly across the back. You'll notice that the pieces curl up a bit, but that's not a problem, they'll dry flat. If you don't want to use the glue, you can use something like a removable double-sided stick tape. Now I stick the pieces onto the felt, and you can see because of that tack it over and over again glue, they lay pretty flat. I prefer this method to using pins. What I'm doing here is I'm attaching the head, the body, and the legs in one long piece. Now if your doll pattern already comes with a head, body, and legs attached, you'll just add that piece to the felt. Here I'm using a pin to poke through the vellum so I can make some marks with a water-soluble ink pen. You see, I'm just marking the points of the eyebrows, each point of the eyes, nose, and mouth. And then with my water-soluble ink pen, I'm just making little dots. I prefer this to drawing them all the way through. Then I carefully cut out the full pattern. Okay, there's the front, and now we have to do the back side. So just like before, we're going to put on the head, line up the neck evenly as much as we can, and then attach those legs. Once I've gotten all the pieces moved over, I want to double check that it's going to match up what I've already cut out with the front. Once you're sure that's lined up, we'll cut out the back as well. Next I'll cut out the arms. I've chosen not to make the arms posable in this doll. I'm going to follow Shelly's instructions here, and I'm just going to add the eyes, making a little hole where I've marked it on the face. And then popping those eyes through, and I like to keep the hole kind of tight. Once I've gotten both those eyes set in place, I'll add the backs, but I like to leave a little bit of room. I don't like to snap them all the way tight, just because it's easier to add those eyelashes before they've tightened on completely. Because I left that little gap between the eye and the back, it's really easy for me to get that needle just underneath the eye to make those eyelashes. With the face complete, we need to make one more adjustment to the back before we can stitch up the sides of our doll. Using a pair of scissors, I cut a small slit from the back of the torso all the way up through the back of the head. This is how we'll add the wire and the stuffing for our doll. Next, I'll match the front and the back wrong sides together and stitch all the way around, following the stitching instructions in the pattern book I've chosen. If you're using a different type of pattern, refer to your instructions for your stitching guide. Here I'm just finishing up the last little bit. I've stitched the doll all the way around, leaving no gaps. Once I have the body completely stitched up, we're ready to add the wire and the stuffing. I've already measured and cut my wire, and the next thing I like to do is put a little loop in the ends to prevent the wire from poking out from inside the doll. Using a pair of needle nose pliers, I just simply bend it over and give it a little squeeze. I do that to both sides. Next, I bend the wire in half and measure down the length needed for the torso. In my case, I need it 5 inches. Now I'm just going to twist those wires together with a pair of pliers. Next, I'm going to bend up halfway between the leftover wire that's going to be the leg, and I'm going to twist that together as well. In my case, the leg is about 4 inches long. If you're also using Shelly Down's My Felt Doll book, you'll want to use about 26 inches of wire total. Now I'll bend that second leg back to match the first and twist those wires together as well. You don't want to twist the wire too tight, just enough to keep it together. Here I'm using a little bit of sticky back aluminum foil just to keep those folded joints in place. You don't have to use this. You can find this at a hardware store if you like, but you can use duct tape or masking tape or whatever you have on hand. This is just to keep the little folded part from popping open. Once that's finished, I like to measure it up here and make sure that it's going to fit the way I like. Just want to double check that I have everything at the hips there at the right width and the length's correct. That looks good. So now we're just going to insert the wire through the back, and I like to feed down the feet first. And you see at the top of the head I've opened up a loop, and that's just to, I don't know, fill out the head because the head's kind of a wide one in this pattern. Now we're going to add a little bit of stuffing. This is just a poly fiber fill, and this is the stick that comes with it to help you maneuver into those small spaces. You can use a chopstick or a knitting needle if you don't have one of these sticks. Once I've gotten that leg stuff, I like to kind of hold on to the wire down at the foot and then pull the felt skin up so it's nice and tight. And then I'm just going to continue stuffing. And now you want to make it pretty firm, but not so it's busting out of the seams. Using my stick here, get a little more poly fiber fill down in there. And this can take a little while. You just want to add a little bit at a time until you get everything really smooth and really evenly stuffed. Here I'm stuffing the head. The head actually takes quite a bit more of the filling than I expect every time. Now that I have the head partially filled, I'm just going to stitch up the back of the head down to the neck, just so it's easier to keep all that stuffing really tight inside. I'm not doing anything fancy here. This is just a whip stitch over the seam. Now that I've gotten that head stitched up, you can see it's easy for me to kind of stuff it really tight through that small neck opening. Now I'm going to stitch up the neck and part way down the back and do the same thing we did with the head, so I only have a small little gap where I can put the stuffing through. And there we go, that tiny little hole kind of keeps everything together so I can make it really tight. And these things take a lot more stuffing than I realize. Once I've gotten it full as I like, I'm going to finish stitching it up here. Here I'm just winding a bunch of yarn around a small piece of cardboard, and this is how I'm going to make the hair for this doll. You kind of tie it at the top, cut it open the bottom, and then fit it onto your doll's head. Once I like that placement, I'll add some fabric glue to the back of the head and glue down the hairs that should cover this ugly seam. And I'm going to give my doll a ponytail. And here I decided I kind of wanted her to have a little pink stripe in her hair, so I'm just taking a crochet needle to pull through an extra little piece of pink yarn just through that seam on the top and the little ponytail holder down at the bottom. There we go, there's that little ponytail holder I put in there. I'm just going to loop it around my crochet hook and pull it through. Now I'm going to stitch up the arms, and this is just, the same instructions that are found in my book. Stitch all the way around the arms. And you stuff them just like you stuffed the body. And the instructions that came with my pattern have me using a doll needle to attach the arms. You'll want to use whatever instructions came with your pattern. And here I'm cutting out the clothes. These are her little pair of underwear. They're so cute. The doll and the clothes in this book are so adorable. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. If you have the book, you can follow along yourself. So I'm stitching up the shoes, the little top, the little jumper. I'm adding a little flower trim to the bottom of my jumper. I had this little daisy thing, so I'm going to add that on there too. Now this is a special thing that I like to add. I've cut out a little heart from the pink felt, and I'm stitching it to her chest, and I've stitched it from the left side all the way around to the right side and left a gap at the top. And I'm going to take one of those tumbled rose quartz gems and kind of just tuck it down in there and finish stitching. And I call these my healing heart dolls. Rose quartz is said to promote love and healing, and so I make these dolls and gift them to friends of mine who may be ailing or going through a hard time. Now I'm just going to get her dressed. Here's her cute little blouse. And her jumper. I love the way those daisies look. And her cute little shoes. And our posable felt doll is finished. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, I'd sure appreciate it if you'd hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to see what I dream up next. Have a magical day!